Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is a special day. Normally we do the Renew Life RX show on a Thursday, but we're doing it today on a Wednesday because my week is all screwed up. And next week I leave to go hunting, so I'm going to be gone for a few days. We're going to have a bunch of really good shows from yesteryear. For those of you who want to listen to some of the older shows again, and for those of you who are new to the audience and haven't heard some of these shows. It's funny. I put on shows from 2010 about stuff that people are talking about today. That's how far ahead we are of the curve on Superhuman Radio. And for those of you listening to this show 100 years from its original production date, today is November 6th, 2019. And let me go ahead and roll the music and get my co-host, Ronnie Milo.
The first step to changing your life starts with the Renew Life Show with Adam Lamb.
With Ronnie Milo. We have to make him his own theme music eventually. How you doing, Ronnie?
Carl, what's up, buddy? How are you, man?
Wonderful, actually.
Jealous, man. We get to go hunting.
I know. I'm so excited. I love to hunt, and this is a really monumentous hunting trip because I'm taking my son Chase hunting for the first time. We've been preparing for this since Christmas. I bought him a beautiful Savage Axis 2 30-06 bolt action rifle, nice. And he's gotten quite good with it. It has a nice scope on it. And he's gotten all the hunting clothes, and he went and got his hunting license in California, so now he can get one in New York. And we're going to an area of upstate New York, not too far south from Vermont, and it's or the Adirondack region, actually. And where we're hunting, there are some interesting animals on the syllabus. And for those of you who understand what a syllabus is, these are animals native to that area there. So they put them on a syllabus and they give them a hunting season. So naturally, white-tailed deer is our primary target, but black bear is a regular animal found on, especially on the land we're hunting. There's a lot of black bear. Coyote, which there is no hunting season. You can kill a coyote anytime you want. And they want you to kill coyotes because they're killing the deer. It's interesting how humans get involved in ecology. So they had a problem in upstate New York with wild turkeys. And as a result of that, the wild turkeys eat the acorns whole. They swallow them whole. And the deer eat the acorns. So the deer were having trouble feeding, so they decided we have to put a predator in for the wild turkeys. So they brought in coyotes. This is about 15, 20 years ago. Well, why do coyotes want to eat turkeys when they can eat deer?
Right.
So now the coyotes became a threat to the deer. So now they go, well, we need a natural predator to the coyote. Well, that's the mountain lion.
Yeah.
So about 8-10 years ago, they brought in mountain lions. And now the mountain lions are eating everything.
Yeah, they're eating deer first.
So it's going to be interesting. So there's mountain lion, there's black bear, there is coyote, and there is a white-tailed deer on this land. And some people have seen moose, but it's not on the syllabus yet because there's not enough of them, enough sightings. But they did see a moose on this land that we're going to be hunting. So it should be interesting. We should be able to come home with something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my goal is twofold. I really don't care about getting a deer this year. I'd like my son to get a deer. But I'd love to get a black bear. I told Elisa, she's like, I don't want a black bear rug. I says, well, I want a black bear rug somewhere in our house. I don't care if it's in a room that nobody sees, but I've always wanted a black bear rug. I shot a black bear when I was about 19 years old in the Adirondacks, but it was a small bear, and I didn't take care of I didn't get the pelt to the taxidermist in time, and it was bad, and that was it. But this time, if I get a black bear, I'm going to bring it right to someplace to have it processed, because I've always wanted a black bear rug. And keep in mind, I'll eat black bear. I've eaten bear meat. Bear meat is like a cross between pork and beef. It's delicious. It's delicious.
Yeah, never had it. Yeah, never had it.
No, it's very very good.
I used to go hunting as a kid in upstate Michigan, Kalkaska. We did last week a bow, first week a rifle.
Yeah.
We got my first deer with a bow from a tree stand. Pretty fun.
That's nice. That's a hard way to get a deer. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was tough.
So a recent study was published that kind of piqued my interest and your interest to start to talk about IGF-1 again. Silly me. Hold on. Let me just bring the study up so I can talk more intelligently about it. IGF-1 is probably one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented protein peptide hormones. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the old school classic Mustang, right? Everybody forgets about it because these new cars are coming out, but it's still classic and it's still monumental. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is nice because just last week we did an episode of the Pep Talk, and we talked about IGF-1 Long R3, which back in the day, many of us who were powerlifters and bodybuilders, we loved IGF-1 Long R3 because it worked. And we thought with Dr. Betsy Yurt last week, what I said was, this is a peptide that works. That's both good and bad. It's one that if you abuse, it will hurt you. But if it's one that you use properly, it will build muscle faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably one of the first peptides I've ever used before I even knew it was a peptide, right? Because it was a big buzz back in the bodybuilding scene. You know, you ordered it, you had to put acetic acid in it, and then you had to
remember that?
Yeah.
For those of you that are just getting into peptides, you have no idea what pain is until you take a vial of IGF-1 out of a freezer that's been reconstituted with acetic acid, which is basically vinegar.
Yeah.
And vinegar for injection. And inject 10 units into a muscle. And then literally like tears coming from your eyes from the burning and stinging and pain in your bicep.
And it lingers too. It doesn't go away.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's like what happens is the pain becomes less, not because it goes away, but because the little depot dissipates. And so the pain becomes spread out in a larger area to where it goes from acute pain to just general soreness, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then for us, it's like, all right, well, I'll just have to put up with it because it's going to work. Right?
I need more money. And think about that. Think about the fact that people won't suffer hunger pangs to lose weight, but those of us who were in the quest to acquire greater muscle would put ourselves through grueling pain if it meant eking out just a little bit more muscle from that workout.
Oh, yeah. It's, take an injection right before you go to the gym. That pain, you just go to the gym and work through the pain. Even if it hurts, you're still working through it because you got that mental mindset of like, it's going to make me bigger, right?
Anytime I shot in a quad and then I had to go train legs, I knew that night that I wouldn't be able to walk because the pain in that leg that I just gave myself the shot was going to be so horrible.
Yeah.
The damage.
Yeah. That's our mindset. We'll put up with a little bit of pain.
Yeah. So getting back to this this particular information. So this particular study came out this week, and what they looked at was the physiological role of growth hormone and, more importantly, insulin-like growth factors. So for a long time, IGF-1 has been getting a lot of bad publicity from the cancer community. The idea is that IGF-1 causes cancer. In fact, for a lot of cancer therapies, they go out of their way to completely shut off any IGF-1 production. I say when it comes to cancer, cancer leverages everything that is good for healthy cells. So this approach to focusing on IGF-1 would be tantamount to me saying, well, certain cancers need oxygen. So since you have one of these oxygen-dependent cancers, we're going to smother you. We're just going to starve your entire body of oxygen, because then we'll kill that cancer cell, which is basically the model for treating cancer, right? Everything that they do today to treat cancer is just as harmful to the healthy cells in your body, from chemotherapy down. So this idea that IGF-1 in and of itself needs to be completely obliterated in order to create an environment where cancer can't thrive is completely misguided. Speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, so basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to put out information out there to scare the people, because they don't want you to be healthy and functional, right? They want you to, like you said, starve off the source that is going to increase tumor and cancer growth. But in the other side of it, like, reading the study that we sent, it was from Hungary, that IGF-1 is a crucial role in multiple functions in the body, right? Lungs, kidneys, livers. So if they're going to, perpetuate the studies saying that it causes cancer, right? It doesn't cause cancer. They wanted to deprive it from you so you could start failing other systems, right? It's just a downward spiral, right? If we keep IGF-1 in optimal level space, and then we also look at other different factors, then we can probably make a difference in the cancer or the tumor, growth, right? But cutting off, it's just like trying to drive your car with no fuel. You know what I mean? It's going to break down eventually.
Yeah, like that's a great analogy. So you want to save your spark plugs, right? So you drain the car of fuel and it doesn't run. But now it doesn't run. It doesn't go. But yeah, your spark plugs are lasting longer because there's no wear and tear. So the approaches that they've used on IGF-1 have implicated it with cancer, number one. Number two, about 8 years ago, when the whole mTOR, AMPK discussion started, around the time that I started talking to Dr. Blagasconi about rapamycin, there's a lot of people who got the wrong message from mTOR AMPK modulation to kill senescent cells. And some of those people started to say, well, mTOR, one of the things that drives mTOR is, in fact, insulin growth factors, IGF-1 and 2, these two different ligands. And so they decided that, okay, anything that suppresses IGF-1 will lead to better aging and longer life. And I have a friend, well, not a friend, the guy who's been on my show, named Mike Mooney. I haven't been in touch with him in a long time, but probably about 6 or 7 years ago, he told me that he had cut out all dairy, all red meat. I'm trying to think what else. So I said to him in an email, I said, why did you do that? He said, because I'm suppressing IGF-1. It will lead to a longer lifespan. And I thought this was the silliest idea in the world, and I still do. And I don't know how, I haven't heard from him. I don't know how well he's aging in the past 7 years or 8 years since I had him on the show, 6 or 7 years. But I started to type an email back to him, and then I thought, nah, he's already made his decision. He already believes IGF-1 is a villain. I'm not going to try to change his mind. But the information that's coming out about IGF-1 today not only says it's not a villain, but it actually looks like it enhances lifespan. Now, let's get this out of the way now, and I'm going to have you speak to it. We're not talking about supraphysiological levels of IGF that are seen in people with acromegalia, pituitary adenomas, where they produce so much growth hormone. And people are going to say, why are we talking about growth hormone? Because really, all of growth hormone's effects are mediated when it goes through the liver and turns into growth factors, and IGF being the most metabolically active one. So we're not talking about growth hormone, but indirectly. But when you have acromegalia, you have raging levels of IGF-1 or N2, and bones overgrow, big brows, and you die younger too. You do. We're not talking about supraphysiological levels of IGF, right?
Right. No, we're talking about optimal ranges, right? And every optimal range is different. Our clinic is we work in between 200 to 300 optimal range, right?
Right, because 400 is the top, right?
400 is the top,
So
but
200 to 300 is like that sweet spot where you're not low, you're not high, you're just right.
Right. But then there's also, you have to look at other factors. I think it's IGF-3B, I believe it is. That's
binding
another.
You're talking about binding protein 3, right?
Right. Yeah, binding protein 3. That's another measurement to see where the true IGF levels are, right?
Well, it's also, I'll tell you what it also is, and I learned this from Dr. Mark Gordon. So when IGF-1 levels can go up independently of growth hormone. If you eat a lot of dairy, if you eat a lot of red meat, you will see IGF-1 levels go up just because of the influence of your diet. This is not indicative of growth hormone going up. The way to tell if the reason for your IGF-1 levels going up is, in fact, growth hormone going up because of a supplement you're using, you look at binding protein 3. When IGF-1 binding protein 3 goes up, it's indicative that growth hormone is going up. And why is this important? Because it's really hard to test growth hormone because it appears in the bloodstream for moments. It's like smoke. It dissipates and it's gone. So you have to do a 24-hour urine metabolite collection to even think you know. Another way to do it is to check IGF-1 and binding protein 3, and you can tell whether or not growth hormone is actually the producer of the IGF-1.
Right. So we spoke about this off air as I was working with one of these very influential doctors, and he was the one that actually spoke about this, about the binding protein. If you have an increase in IGF-1 and a decrease in IGF binding proteins, then you'll start to see diseases and things in that nature happen because it's a push-pull system. If they're both elevated at the same time, then there's no increase of cancer or tumor growth or any kind of autoimmune disease because they're staying elevated at the time. Basically, once you get a decrease in IGF-1 binding protein, that's when you start to see the effects of cancer and tumor growth because of the low diminishing of it.
But now let's you and I postulate for a second. Let's be reckless and come up with our own ideas for a second, right? So recently, you and I did a groundbreaking show that most people don't realize was groundbreaking about megalin. And what the study about megalin showed was that in the presence of megalin, sex hormone binding globulin actually doesn't deactivate hormones. It initiates their ability to enter tissue, completely changing this idea that sex hormone binding globulin makes hormones inactive and only the free unbound levels are biologically active. That's free testosterone doesn't matter. Probably what matters more is the presence of megalin and higher SHBG. You and I just talked about this. This is groundbreaking. This went under and over the heads of a lot of people, I guarantee you, right? Well, what if binding protein 3 is similar to sex hormone binding globulin, but just for growth hormone? What if, in fact, when binding protein 3 is low and you have all of this unbound IGF-1, it's less biologically active and therefore isn't entering the tissue that it's supposed to enter and stays available in the bloodstream to wreak havoc on tissue it shouldn't be working with.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. 100%. It's kind of the same mechanism of action both ways, right? One on the sexual hormone side, one on the growth hormone side.
Right.
You got to have all the correct pieces of the puzzle together for it to work, right? If not, you're going to have an incomplete puzzle, and these things are not going to be able to work. You know what I mean? So, also, to your point, testosterone training, they raise IGF-1 levels, right? So if we look, if they're speculating that IGF-1 increases tumor and cancer growth, right? Then let's look at the process of IGF-1 in the body from a prenatal state to an adolescent state, right? Because it's going to be the highest it's ever been because it's responsible for tissue growth, cellular growth, and bone growth, right? And also lipolysis, right? So if IGF-1 is the highest from prenatal to adolescence and mid-teens, right? Then the adolescents and the prenatals will be predisposition for cancer and tumor growth, right? So therefore, it's debunked already because kids are fairly healthy, fairly active. And it's not the IGF-1 that's increasing it. It's the oxidation, it's the stress, it's the inflammation. And then on top of that, decrease of IGF-1. All those things work in a synergistic effect to create this havoc, to create all different kind of illnesses in the body. All right, it thrives off of that.
So IGF-1 also has an effect, as you just kind of pointed out indirectly, on lipolysis, which is the evacuation of free fatty acids from fat cells, putting them into the bloodstream, making them available as a source of energy. And simultaneously, growth hormone causes mitochondria to prefer triglycerides as a source of energy over glucose. So, and the reason I'm putting these two pieces together is because while IGF-1 seems to allow the body to liberate more free fatty acids, it does not have a negative effect on lipid profiles, which you would think that the presence of more fat in the bloodstream, if you believe the whole cholesterol hypothesis, that high fat equals bad cholesterol, then theoretically, IGF-1 putting more free fatty acids into the bloodstream should have some sort of either negative effect on lipid profiles, but it doesn't. And in fact, that's probably because the presence of the GH-IGF-1 axis, the presence of growth hormone and IGF-1, turns mitochondria into little factories that burn fat and get it out of the bloodstream faster. So this is yet another benefit of IGF-1 that is really never spoken about, because we can't get past the idea that this nonsense that it causes cancer. IGF-1 does not cause cancer. If it did, then every child with idiopathic short stature who is receiving what are considered supraphysiological doses of growth hormone on a weekly basis, sometimes usually between 30 and 50 IUs a week, they would have a higher cancer development rate than their non-growth hormone using counterparts. They don't. And every child who's undergoing rapid growth, who has ridiculous amounts of growth hormone or IGF-1 in their body, they would have higher cancer level. They don't.
Yeah. So we all know that cancer feeds off of sugars, right? So IGF-1 inhibits glucose. So therefore, your body utilizes fat more proficient as energy. So if you're inhibiting glucose, you're not feeding cancer cells or tumor growth because you're cutting off the supply, right? So, to their point, another misconception is it's going to increase tumor and cancer growth. Why? Because we're starving off the main source for it to grow.
There's also one other factor. We know that there is research out there that shows that excessive use of antioxidants can actually be pro-cancer, pro-onco. And the reason for that is that oxidative components like reactive oxygen species, ROS, is well known to be part of the tumor necrosis, the tumor killing system. When you have a lone cancer cell making its way through your bloodstream, looking for some place to dock and metastasize, the oxidative effects of reactive oxygen species will kill it. This is well known. This is the reason that they are now saying, well, antioxidants are good, but too much is probably no good because it can actually promote. Now we're talking about actual promotion of cancer. And so Adele Musa taught me this on Super Radio probably 7 years ago, that IGF-1 specifically has the ability to have antioxidant effects as well.
100%.
And this may be why, in concert with high antioxidant intake, that it may allow for a tumor cell to actually live longer in the bloodstream. Now, is it causing cancer? No. Is it promoting cancer? Could be. It's not starting the fire, but it could cause the fire to grow faster. Again, using the oxygen analogy, oxygen is good for cancer, but we're not suggesting people smother themselves to kill their cancer. So
Right.
IGF-1 is very complex. When you start to look at it honestly, without an agenda, you come away saying it is absolutely something we need for the entire body to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
But it has some unique characteristics that may enable cancer to be more productive. How do we identify that link only and not completely obliterate the rest of the body by completely suppressing IGF-1?
I think you have to look at other factors, right? Other factors in the system. Looking at other markers, inflammation markers, right? Looking at other different, C-reactive protein, things in that nature, oxidative stress, deficiencies, the vitamin deficiencies, because it's not one thing that's specifically targeting towards that. It's a variant of other different things that are associated to it. If there's cancer in the system, it could possibly increase it. It could possibly decrease it, right? We don't know unless we look at other different factors, right? And they're specifically trying to target one thing, and you can't do that. You can't make an assumption off of one thing, right? So
I want to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, I want to bring into the discussion something that pretty much everybody who understands growth hormone and IGF-1 makes a claim to, and that is that the use of growth hormone through its contribution to the elevation of insulin-like growth factors, which is what IGF stands for, will actually promote the development of insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. But this study shows perhaps the complete opposite. And this is part of the most fascinating part of this discussion we're going to take when we come back. Stay tuned. Are you still on the fence about Body Protection Complex BPC Oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus Lifting Company gym in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. I'm 58 years old, just older tendon kind of issues. For us powerlifters, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through them. I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do that with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, drseeds.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at Synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Are you looking for a better way to absorb the nutrients you know you need? Do what I do and start your day with lipospheric supplements from Live-On Labs. Unlike pills and powders, Live-On's patented liposomal encapsulation technology transports nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin B, glutathione, acetyl L-carnitine, and alpha-lipoic acid to where they need to be, your cells. Visit try.liveonlabs.com/Carl to learn why I take these supplements every day to help me perform in the gym and in life. That's try.liveonlabs.com/Carl. Hey, this is Carl. For 14 years, you've heard me talk about Can-C eye drops, and they being the reason that I do not need reading glasses at now 61 years old. But I regularly get emails and messages from people who've been using Can-C and having some amazing results. Recently, I got an email from a fellow named Chad, who, because he was on dexamethasone eye drops for over 6 months, developed a cataract. Can-C eye drops actually reduced my cataract to the point where even my doctor has a hard time finding it. I will never stop using Can-C eye drops drops twice a day. I've been using them since 2008, he says. And you should be too. There is no better way to keep your eyes healthy and seeing clearly than Can-C eye drops. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com today and get on board, and we will both be looking into the future with very clear vision.
Men and women, you've heard about hormone optimization. Do you feel like it's something you want to look into? RenewLifeRx.com is the place to start. Their doctors can help you with the solutions. RenewLifeRx.com has a simple process for lab work, consultation, and taking a deep dive into where your hormone levels can be improved. Superhuman Radio listeners get 30% off your initial lab work and consultation. Go to RenewLifeRx.com to schedule your no-obligation phone consultation today. Feel younger, get in better shape, and be more productive at RenewLifeRx.com.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back. I have two things I have to do. First of all, I have to give a shout-out to a guy that I've known for a long time, and he's watching the show live on Facebook today, and that's Kerry Sherman. He's been a friend for a very, very long time. In fact, he thought so highly of me and the show that he brought me to a company called Fremantle Media about possibly doing a reality TV show revolving around the superhuman way of life. And also, he has a video of me, probably pretty close to my strongest. I was probably 53 years old, maybe or so, doing some training in the gym that I would give anything. I would pay him money if I could get a copy of that, because now I'm getting older and I don't know that I'll ever see that level of strength again. It would mean a lot to me. So if you're still watching, Kerry, if you can dig that video up, man, I'll pay. I'll save money. Also, I have to promote, we have a new sponsor, and you're going to start hearing the ads running. And it's called Be Strong Blood Flow Restriction System. The website is bstrong.training/super-human. I am telling you something. You've never heard me say these words before, but I'm telling you it's true. And Ronnie, you may have an opinion on this too. But I've been playing with their new, they have the real blood flow restriction system that has the millimeters of mercury and pressure, and you get them, and they're bands, they blow up like the blood pressure cuff. Wear them on your upper legs and your upper arms. I say that on the targeted muscles, these are more effective than anabolic steroids. I've seen changes in my upper arms and my legs in general in days that I've never seen before, and I've used a lot of juice back in the day, so I'm being honest. Right now, you can save 10% by using the coupon code SHR by going to bstrong.training/super-human. Check it out. We're going to be doing a show on the 27th, I think it is, of this month with them. I don't know why I do know. I didn't want to be that guy wearing the bands. Like, this douchebag wearing those bands. I'm telling you something. I will never, ever train without them ever again. Have you done anything with blood flow restriction, Ronnie?
Yeah, so my last contest that I did, probably 2010, is when they started becoming really, really prevalent in the space. And I started using them for my contest prep, and probably the best my legs ever looked. I use them strictly for legs, right? And if anybody could dig up any pictures of me competing, you'll probably see my legs, and they're my strongest point. But I mean, they were dominant, right? They almost overpowered my upper body. So
you had the Branch Warren syndrome.
Yeah.
Remember
exactly.
when Branch first started coming out? It was like, who's this guy with the insane legs and the average upper body? You know?
Yeah. I think there's a picture floating around there online. It's me in front of an American flag, doing some photo shoots and stuff, and my legs are just way overpowering. Because
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I look at myself.
Did you expect them to be that effective? Did you go, I'll give it a try and see?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fad, right? Because everybody started, I was in the supplement space and, going to the Arnold and the Olympia, and these guys were promoting them. And I got one of the, gadgets from one of the guys, did some trading for some supplements and took them home, and was the only guy in the gym using them. Kind of felt dumb, but I didn't care. I was doing it for, aesthetic purposes. And, like I said, my legs grew tremendously. You know what I mean?
So here's what I've been doing with them. So I train with them, and then I leave them on for about 4 hours afterwards, and maintain that. I like, even my forearms get so painfully pumped it's like methyl 1 test in your back. Like typing is difficult. And I walk on the treadmill with them. It's like you feel like you just did an hour's worth of lunges. And my legs, I haven't been training my legs because I had the foot surgery and then I got the hamstring tear. My legs are bigger now, and I'm not hardly training them. It's because of these bands. It's just, I don't understand why everybody's going to use them. And these bands specifically, because they're pneumatic. They blow up with air. They have the little gauge. So you got, 350 milligrams of mercury of pressure on both arms, 450 on both legs. You can set them. It's not like cutting off the circulation like those tourniquet things. This is this is developed around the actual Katsu research that we talked about back in 2006, 2007 on the show. I will never train without them ever again. I just don't know why I would.
Yeah, I'm going to order them once we get off the air.
Yeah, use the code SHR. It's 10% off. But anyway, so let's get back to this topic. So I remember the first guy to tell me this was the guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he has he was the first one to come out with that potato starch pre-workout glucose polymer. That was all the rage back in the day. Anthony Almeida. I have an amazing memory. Anthony Almeida, one day we were talking at a show, I think it was the Arnold, and I told him that I was using growth hormone. He said, that's horrible. You're going to become insulin resistant. I said, really? Why? He said, because it raises Igf-1 and you're going to become insulin resistant. Well, one of the things that was shown in this recent study that we're talking about that you said came from, where did it come from? Hungary.
Yeah, Hungary.
Yes. Is that the presence of IGF-1 actually takes the burden off of the pancreas to produce more insulin and may, in fact, be a contributing factor to people who develop insulin resistance, that their IGF-1 levels are too low.
Right. I think if you look at insulin and IGF-1 together, same molecular structure, right? So the body identifies it the same way. When you do take IGF-1, your body diminishes 20% of blood sugar, right? It's not 100% like insulin. So you're going to get a decrease in blood sugar. When you get a decrease in blood sugar, you're going to get a decrease in insulin because your pancreas doesn't have to output insulin as much to clear the blood sugar.
All of a sudden, it had a helper. It got a helper.
Right. It's like, oh, thank God. I don't have to put more insulin out of the pancreas, right? So the pancreas goes, oh, I got a break, right? So then your body starts to, slowly, downregulate insulin. So, you're not insulin resistant anymore. You know what I mean? I think he's saying at the super physiological doses, right? It could happen over time, right? But we all know IGF-1, if we're using it, we use it 30 days on, take about 4 or 5 weeks off so the body can normalize. But these guys will stand up for a year, a year and a half. And then they'll start become insulin resistance because now you're throwing everything out of whack, right? Yeah. The body doesn't know what to do. It's overcompensating for the exogenous amount of sources. And then you start to see, downregulation of thyroid production because TSH is very responsible for IGF, right? If you look at a lot of the bodybuilders back in the day that take a massive amount of growth hormone, they'll have to run T3 with it because their TSH is becoming very, very high.
You know what? I forgot all about that, but you're right. In fact, the high levels of growth hormone actually diminish the effectiveness of thyroid hormone. So you're right. They have that interplay, that interesting relationship. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a super physiological doses, right?
Right. Yeah. 10 IUs a day. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that, that's bro science guys that are running the 10 IUs a day, for what reason, who knows? But at the end of the day, if it's an optimal range, it'll decrease insulin resistance, right? It'll actually help you burn fat at a faster rate. Recovery, ligament, bone, tendon, it stops the inflammation process in the brain. There's a bunch of different effects that happens for optimal IGF levels, right? And we test for it. We test for specific IGF-1 in our blood work, and usually we'll see a decrease in IGF levels with decrease in testosterone levels, right? Because those two work hand in hand. You know what I mean? So,
in fact, isn't it true? I'm going back to the day now, so I'm going to have to ask you. But isn't it true that aromatizing androgens like testosterone, because of and men especially, the elevation of estrogen actually increases growth hormone production?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because estrogen is more anabolic than testosterone, right? If you look at the women, they're estrogen dominant. They're typically stronger than some men. You know what I mean? but we just don't want the side effects of high estrogen, right? Because we aromatize at a high rate. We don't want the side effects from it. So we try to keep it in an optimal range. But yeah, well, I see it all the time. I'll see downregulation, I'll see upregulation of TSH, which is hypothyroidism, right? Which is too much TSH. I'll see low IGF-1 and low testosterone. And then the first thing they'll ask is, hey, can we go on a thyroid med? I said, no, let's correct the hormones. The IGF will get corrected, and then TSH will get corrected. And within 90 days, we get the blood work back. And they're like, you're right.
So if somebody comes to your clinic specifically, they're hearing the show, they're thinking, I'm on testosterone already. Maybe they're with a different clinic, but the clinic that they're with doesn't offer peptide support. And they come to you and they say, what about IGF-1? You prescribe the long R3 version, I would imagine, from TaylorMade, right?
Yeah, so IGF-1 LR3, and LR3 is the long chain of arginine in the third position. If all you chemists out there know, that's how they do it.
I didn't know that's what it meant, so thanks for clearing that up. So it's the long chain of, because I asked Dr. Yurth, what is it about LR3 that's changed to make it last longer? Because it has like a 7-day half-life, right?
20-day half-life.
Oh. So, but is it a 20-day half-life where most of it is up front, like CJC 1295?
Yeah, because it binds to protein, so it stays active in the system longer. So if you look at the amino acid sequence of IGF-1, it's 70 amino acids. IGF-1 LR3 is 83, so it picks up 13 more amino acids, and they swap out the glutamic acid for arginine. Yeah, and for arginine in the third position to make it bind to the protein to keep it active in the system longer. That's how that does it.
Are there any other special attributes to LR3 that we don't see in regular IGF-1? Like, does it have any? Because now it almost sounds like a selective amino acid, if you will. So, do we see greater growth with it as a result of these changes?
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because if you do IGF-1 LR3, it's in and out of the system about 10 to 12 hours, right? So if it's binding to the protein, staying longer, so it's actually being utilized longer, so you get tissue replication, cell replication, lipolysis at a longer rate, right? It's kind of set it and forget it, right? You put it you put the turkey in the oven, you set it and forget it. That's kind of IGF-1 LR. Yeah.
So back in the day when I used it, the idea was. If you were going to use it in target muscles, you usually had two lats, two del. You put 100 units, 100 micrograms, 100 micrograms in each.
Right.
Is that still the accepted 100 micrograms to 200 micrograms when dosing it?
It all depends on your goals, right? If for muscle growth, usually the 100 to 150 microgram range. If it's for health and longevity, probably recommend 20 to 40 micrograms.
Interesting.
Yeah. It also depends on their IGF levels, because if they're in the tank, then you might have to go with more 100 micrograms just to get it to an optimal level. But if they're almost normal and you want them into an optimization level, then we'll probably back down the dosage. And it all depends on weight too. Like,
how so? The bigger the person needs more, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
More tissue. More tissue.
More tissue.
Bigger yard, more water. So when you would prescribe IGF-1 long R3 for one of your clients, once they're using it, when do you retest? And do you retest like the day after the shot, or do you retest? What's the testing protocol to make sure you're getting a true snapshot as opposed to an exaggerated snapshot of what the dose is doing?
Right, so LR3 is going to be active in the system for 20 to 30 days after. So we'll probably monitor them probably 20 to 30 days after their last injection and just see where their levels are at. I've had a guy come back, his levels were 600.
That fast?
Yeah. That
fast. How much was he taking?
He was taking 150 micrograms from TaylorMade.
So I just took I've been using it sporadically because I'm using IGF-1 C, which is mechano growth factor as well. I use that the day of and the day after training. And I use a pretty high dose of that. I use 200 to 250 micrograms 2 days in a row, which I think is considered high for IGF-1, MGF, right?
Yeah, that's the normal. That's the normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm using IGF-1 long R3, which I have, would I just inject it once a month, once a week, once every 2 weeks? What would I do?
What are you using it for? You're using it for recovery, you're using it for body composition
I'm
changes.
using it for recovery, for body composition, and obviously to age better.
So I'd probably dose you 50 micrograms every day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably
Okay.
dose you 50 micrograms every day. And then
Okay.
if you do it before you train, obviously it's going to utilize fat and mobilize fat at a higher rate, so you burn fat at a faster rate. If you use it after you train, it's going to help with recovery purposes too. So, but I would inject that mechanical growth factor first, wait 15 to 20 minutes, and then do the IGF-1. So let the
Since the IGF-1 has such a long life, I just take it first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
am I wrong? Too. Okay.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, for health and longevity, right? You know, you got the guy that sits behind the computer all day, not really into training, just wants it for health and longevity. We usually recommend first thing in the morning, right? Because that's when the growth hormone levels are the lowest.
So clear up something else for me that I've never understood. So I have both IGF-1 long R3 and I have vials of IGF-1 long R3 receptor grade. I got them from Peptide Sciences, which, by the way, we now have a code for Peptide Sciences. They've gotten so many new customers from us that they gave me a code, SHR. If you're a first-time buyer from Peptide Sciences and use the code SHR, they'll give you 10% off your first order. That's all. Anyway, so what's the difference between receptor grade and just the regular old peptide?
The IGF-1, just IGF-1 doesn't have the LR3. It's not the receptor grade, right?
No. This is LR3. So I have regular IGF-1 LR3 that doesn't say anything on it, and then I have other vials that say IGF-1 LR3 receptor grade.
That's new to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard it. Supposedly, it's supposed to have a greater affinity to the receptor. I just don't know what that means.
So so my experience is two IGF-1 LR3. There's one with DES, and then there's the regular LR3. Maybe the receptor grade is the DES version.
Tell me what DES is. So is that kind of like mechanical growth factor with the longer lifespan?
Yeah, so the DES is kind of like the drug affinity complex for CJC.
Okay.
So it prolongs the drug in the system for long periods of time. I don't know how long that is. I've had a good experience with the DES. I've used it before. I've had better experience with the LR3. And then a lot of my buddies would say that they get crashed in the blood sugar, the DES, because it's active in the system longer.
So now I want to talk about that for a second to kind of tie this all together. IGF-1 acts like insulin. So if you are already insulin resistant, if you're somebody who's not metabolically flexible, i.e., you can't fast for very long. Like if you go without a meal for 3 or 4 hours, you become anxious, you become angry, you become groggy, you can't think straight. You are already suffering from the lack of metabolic flexibility, a gift that your ancestors gave to you, to be able to go for long periods of time without food and run on other substrates like fatty acids and ketones. So you are already insulin resistant. So using anything that increases IGF, that's real. I don't mean the Cerevital crap that they're pitching on TV that does nothing except just, if you're going to buy Cerevital, just send me your money. You're going to have the same. You're going to have the same results, and the money will be out of your hands as well, and you'll feel better because you gave it to the show. But if you're using real stuff, you're using, CJC 1295, GHRPs, Ipamorelin, Semira. You're using real growth hormone secretagogues that legitimately raise growth hormone, which in turn legitimately raises IGF-1, and you are in fact at that threshold of insulin resistant, that you're probably pre-diabetic, you're in the 120s, most fasted mornings, and maybe even higher, you will notice anxiety, tremor, and sweating from real growth hormone secretagogues and IGF-1 long R3 as well, and maybe even MGF, because they're shuttling glucose out of your blood, which your pancreas has failed to be able to do any longer.
Right. So the inconsistencies of the spiking and the dropping of the blood sugars is going to create that environment for the anxiety and the all the other different effects that you were saying.
I have been having some problems, and I just realized it. I mean, it could be I'm using too much IGF-1 long R3.
What are you experiencing?
I'm having some anxiety. Like I told you, I've been noticed lately. I've had anxiety. It's like this underlying thing that if I think about something that would normally not affect me, all of a sudden it kind of stresses me out. And I also have to back down my testosterone. I think that at 61 years old, I'm not training like I should be. You know, I should be spending 2 hours in the gym every single day. I really should. That's what I should be doing because that's when I thrive. You know, I'm going in for a 30 or 40-minute workout, sitting in the sauna for 15, 20 minutes and rushing to the studio to get to work. And the idea of using 500 milligrams a week of testosterone is just reckless and silly and wasteful So I do have to drop my dose down to something more reasonable, like 200, 250 milligrams a week for now. But yeah, I've had this underlying anxiety, and I have started to use IGF-1 long R3 again. So I wonder if that's if I know I'm not pre-diabetic because my blood sugar, my fasting blood sugar is always in the 70s, always, and sometimes it's low 60s. So I know I'm metabolically flexible, but I'm just wondering if maybe I don't know. It's hard for me to pinpoint.
That's something to go into. Is a lot of people will ask us about fasting glucose, right? And that to me means absolutely nothing. You got to look at other factors.
Yeah, you got to look at insulin, C-peptide. You got to look at insulin.
HbA1c, right? So when was the last time you got blood work done, right?
I'm just about to have it done. Actually, I should have had it done on Monday, but I didn't. I'm probably going to have it done before I leave to go hunting.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to see what's going on, see what's contributing to the anxiety. It could be the insulin.
I had another thought. This is really good that I've got you on the show right now. So I've been using 150 IUs of HCG every single night for the better part of a year, and I ran out when we were on the cruise ship, and I haven't re-upped my. And I always take it right before bed.
Do you take it on the same day as your testosterone injection?
I do it every day. I take 150 IUs of HCG right before bed every single night because it makes me sleep so deeply. And I said to Elisa, the only thing, because my sleep has gotten real crappy lately, and the only thing that's changed really is that I haven't been using the HCG before bed.
Right. Yeah. So typically we're not supposed to recommend taking the HCG the same day as the testosterone shots. We stagger them, right? We do it before the testosterone shot, after the testosterone shot, because those two will cancel each other out. They won't work. I've had a gentleman come back, his blood work. His testosterone was 700, and he was on HCG, but he was taking the HCG the same day as the testosterone injections. His LH and FSH were 0.0. So it wasn't working. Yeah, it wasn't working. So we always recommend staggering the HCG and the testosterone on the different days.
So I can just take that one day off, but I'm using the Chrysler protocol, Dr. John Chrysler's protocol, where you take 150 IUs every day. So what you're saying is just don't take it the day that I do my injection.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is his approach with the testosterone as well? If you're taking the testosterone the same day as the HCG, or how's he doing that?
I'll have to look at the book again. I have it. I'll send it to you. He wrote a book on it. His HCG protocol. In fact, I'm going to make it available to the entire audience on the website as soon as possible because everybody should read that again. Poor guy's gone now. I feel bad. I think about him all the time. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll tell people how they can get started on using IGF-1 long R3 through the clinic. Stay tuned. You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety with, which I have a long history of having. Started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using Benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I found that actually, in the middle of a panic attack, I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers.
Plus Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom-made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
You already know the benefits of red light therapy. Now you have to find the strongest, best one out there at the best price, right? That's where Scott Chevery found himself. He had to create Mito Red Light so you can get the strongest, best red light therapy unit in the world at the absolute best price. And the Superhuman Nation gets an additional discount. Go to MitoRedLight.com and use code SHR to get the lowest price anywhere, plus free shipping inside the USA and deeply discounted shipping worldwide. Go to MitoRedLight.com and use code SHR today. That's MitoRedLight.com. Do you use protein powder? Then you'll want to hear this. Thrive Protein is the single best protein blend in the world, built around what Mother Nature put into mother's milk. Thrive Protein is the first human-appropriate protein blend. There's just too much in Thrive to list in this commercial. That's why I'm challenging you to compare your current protein to Thrive. Get your current protein and go to thrivprotein.com and see how your protein's label stacks up to Thrive. For a limited time, get 3 pounds of Thrive for $59.95, including shipping inside the USA. That's thrivprotein.com and code COMPARE. Get ready to experience protein envy. Redcon-1 is one of the fastest growing supplement companies in the world today. That's because they produce supplements that deliver on their promises. From their flagship pre-workout Total War to their innovative whole food MREs and bars. Now you can get the deepest discount ever offered to any audience anywhere. Use code SHR and get 25% off all Redcon-1 products today. SHR and 25% off. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
I'm still hacking up a lung from being sick.
Are you using N-acetylcysteine?
I'm out of it, actually. I got an upper respiratory virus on the cruise.
Yeah.
It was a virus. You know how I found out it was a virus? So, of course, you go to the doctor. He tests me for strep. He goes, it's not strep. And he says, but looks like you got a lot going on in the back of your throat. I'm going to give you a Z-Pack. And so this is the first time I've been like, okay, give me the Z-Pack, doc. Because I don't want to be stupid. I want to get better faster. Mm-hmm. I take the Z-Pack. Nothing.
Yeah.
So my eye gets all bloodshot and stinging. And that's the eye that I had the corneal abrasion, so I don't fool around with it. So I go to the eye doctor, and she looks. She goes, no, the abrasion is great. She looks at it. She looks under the eyelid. She goes, oh, you've got a little viral infection in your eye. I says, how do you know? She goes, well, the eye, the conjunctiva underneath the lid folliculizes. So it gets these little bumps that have a white tip on it, almost like a hair wants to grow out of it, right?
Right. Yeah. Like
she says that's indicative of a virus. I'm thinking to myself, why don't any GPs know this?
They don't
like
care.
when you go and they go, oh yeah, you got something in your throat. Let me look. Why don't they go? Let me look under your eye. Oh, you know, you got a little viral infection in your eye. It's probably a virus. There's nothing we can do for it. I'm not going to give you an antibiotic.
I'd give you Thiamine alpha-1.
Well, that's what I took. I mean, I got better fast. I took Thymosin alpha-1 and LL37 every day, and I got better. But I still have this thing going on, which actually may be microbial after the fact. But the LL37 is going to kill that too. So
yeah, that stuff's phenomenal. I've used it before.
So if somebody contacts the clinic, what's the process if they just want to start using IGF-1 long R3?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about IGF-1 in the bodybuilding aspect, but we cover a bunch of different things that uses for health and wellness, right? It's IGF-1's help with Crohn's disease, helps with any kind of GI intestinal issues, whether it's IBS, whether it's diverticulitis. Also helps with Alzheimer's, the dementia, Parkinson's, osteoporosis, and stroke patients, right? So You don't have to be a bodybuilder or an athlete to take IGF-1. All right, if you want to just look into it for health and longevity, or if you have so many issues that we've covered, you can go ahead and email me at Milo, Milo @RenewLifeRx, and then I will send you a link. Actually, I'll jump on the phone. We'll do a quick consult, kind of figure out what's going on, get to know you a little bit, and then we'll send you a link, and it's a 3-step process: health history questionnaire, labs, physical form, and then we take everything to the doctor. The doctor writes a program up, and then myself and the patient will go over the program with it, and then we'll discuss what medications or what kind of supplementation that we recommend. So,
in fact, Dr. Betsy Yerth on that podcast that we just did recently about IGF-1, LR3, and MGF, excuse me, I'm clearing my throat, said you may already be on CJC and ipamorelin, but if you're hepatically compromised, if your liver isn't functioning right, you could still have low levels of IGF-1. And that's when she comes in and says, we're going to keep you on the secretagogues because it's doing all these other good things, but we're going to also supplement with a little IGF-1 because we're not seeing enough of a conversion. So those of you out there saying, yeah, but I'm already taking, a growth hormone secretagogues. Why would I need that? Well, because you may not be producing enough IGF-1 from those, depending on the older you get. Sometimes you got to kind of feed in here and there where you need it. Isn't that a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's why we look at the IGF-1 levels, right? Because if you're on, the GHRPs and the GHRHs and you're still, below optimal levels, then we'll have to, recommend IGF-1.
And if I want to start just using my IGF-1 just for health benefits, you're saying 20 to 30 micrograms a day. That's it, huh?
Yeah, 20 to 40 micrograms is basically what I've read for health and longevity purposes. I mean, I've taken up to 200 micrograms a day of IGF-1. I didn't really see any results from it. The lower I went, in the 100 range, 50 range, I started seeing results and feeling better too, right? Joints, ligaments, tendons, brain function, all the above.
Interesting. Great information. RenewLifeRx.com is the place to go. As you can see, you're not going to get this kind of complete service from anybody else out there. Because I got an email from a guy today, really nice guy. He's having some issues. He's working with a clinic. I said, what are you taking? And, testosterone, 200 milligrams a week, anastrozole, 0.5 milligrams every 3 days. And he's also on HCG 500 units twice a week. And I emailed him back and said, did they add the AI in after your first blood test, or did they give it to you right from the get-go? No, right from the get-go. And I'm like, cookie cutter. There's so many people out there. There's cookie cutter. Like, how do you even know this guy needs an AI? You don't even know if he needs it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got guys that have been to clinics. They come into our clinic and their estrogen's crashed. And I'm like, well, here's your program. And there's like, where's my, anastrozole? I'm like, we're not doing an anastrozole this time. You know what I mean? You're through the roof. I mean, you're in the basement. So. Yeah, we don't do cookie cutter approaches. It's wellness by design, right? We do it basically off of your symptoms and your reference ranges, right? Basically more off your symptoms. I don't like to read paper, right? When I was a paramedic, we don't read the monitor, we read the patient, right? And that's what I tell a lot of my patients. I don't really make a determination or write a program based on your reference ranges, on your symptoms. Like, how are you feeling? Like, what that makes more of a determination on how to treat you than just looking at a piece of paper, right? Because that's what regular doctors do. Oh, look, your testosterone's this, and this. You're fine. Okay, call you later. Well, I still feel like garbage. I'm still, I can't sleep. Still have no sex drive, this and that. Well, in the paper, it says you're good, but, we don't do that. I read more of the symptoms than anything.
RenewLifeRx.com. Go there, check it out. Reach out to Ronnie. Give your email address one more time.
Milo @RenewLifeRx. Milo @RenewLifeRx.com.
Thanks for being here today, brother.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate you. Feel better.
All right.
Good luck
to you
hunting.
Later. What's that?
All right, man. Good luck hunting.
Oh, yeah. I'm coming back with something. I don't know what yet, but I'll come back with something. Even if it's a frog. I'll shoot a frog.
If it's brown, it's down.
There you go. There you go. All right. We'll see you by tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for watching and listening today.